The bipolar world order of the Cold War and its continuation in today's geopolitical conflicts may be less the result of ideological differences and more a deliberately staged system of domination, in which both superpowers in truth cooperated while merely pretending hostility. When one takes a macro view and examines our history over the past decades, many clues can be identified that support this thesis. The parallel developments in the fields of technology, the military, and space exploration. The absence of any real escalation into open war, neither conventional nor nuclear. There were only proxy wars, and those only in regions beyond their own white world. The control structures that were expanded in both blocs, by which entire populations were observed and administered. The fate of states that tried to pursue an independent course outside of these two blocs. Contradictions, such as the hidden cooperation between East and West. All of this strongly suggests a system in which the supposed hostility may well be more facade than reality. Viewed in this light, the division of the world into two opposing blocs may have primarily served the purpose of expanding the white world to its utmost level, both technologically and militarily. East and West moved in lockstep with their technological and military efforts, clearly distancing themselves, both technologically and militarily, from all other non-white regions of the world. They built military and geopolitical dominance against the outside, beyond the white world. Under the pretext of the East-West conflict, each side also increasingly monitored and controlled its own population. Society itself was restructured within a newly framed world order. The true independence of nations was repeatedly obstructed, and much of the world was steadily drawn into this system of the two blocs. If we assume that the East-West conflict was deliberately staged, important consequences emerge for the world order we live in today. The story we have been told about the Cold War would be a deliberate deception. The people in East and West would have been systematically manipulated for decades, with fabricated enemy images that were not real. All major political, economic, and social measures that were justified by the Cold War would, in reality, have had completely different aims, and would have been built upon a deliberate lie. Entire generations were re-educated and manipulated to accept a false world order. This manipulation had far-reaching consequences. In both blocs, people believed the lies about the enemy, and not only there. This lie of an enmity between the two white superpowers was spread across the world. If history was distorted, then today's political decisions are built on that distortion, with long-term consequences. This is not just a historical subject, it has direct effects on our society today and on the way politics operates. The state perfected its total control over society. The Cold War served as the perfect pretext to construct surveillance states. Mass surveillance, intelligence services, social control, and propaganda were refined and expanded during that period. These systems were never dismantled. They still exist to this day. The lie of the Cold War has created the permanent system of control we are living in today. The entire world order is built on a construct, not on chance or democracy. The Cold War created a world order divided into two blocs, with the United States as the dominant power. If the threat of the Soviet Union never truly existed, then this order was not built on freedom, but rather on manipulation. This means the world was shaped from the very beginning according to a long-term and deliberate plan, not through natural developments. Democracy, international institutions, and alliances, such as NATO or the UN, all of this was not created for the people, but as part of a strategy of long-term geopolitical control. It raises the question, why this lie? To answer that, we may first need to examine another, deeper question. Namely, how else could the technological, military, and geopolitical leadership of the white world possibly have been enforced? You cannot openly tell people, We must develop and build weapons so that we can ensure long-term dominance over other continents and peoples. Many people would not have understood or accepted such a statement. And beyond that, it would have amounted to an unmistakable and open declaration of war against the populations of other regions of the world. Openly communicating and declaring such an intention would have prompted other nations or civilizations to unite closely and take countermeasures. An alliance against a civilization openly striving for dominance, in this case the white world, would very likely have emerged. The solution to this supposed dilemma was a fictional conflict, the so-called Cold War, or East-West conflict. Within this staged enmity, the white nations fought one another, at least officially. Instead of saying, "We need weapons technology to be globally dominant," the argument was, "We need weapons to defend ourselves against the evil communists or capitalists." This allowed for a rapid technological and military buildup, without the true motives ever being questioned. It is striking that both the arms race and the space race followed the exact same logic of a competition. Both races had primarily military and strategic significance, ran conspicuously in parallel, were justified in the same way, and ended with the very same final result. Both sides had developed technologies and military capabilities that existed nowhere outside the white world. The same applies to the New World Order that emerged after the end of the World War and was cemented during the Cold War. All the new institutions and organizations, the entire system of control and surveillance, and the intelligence services. All of this was officially created to protect against an enemy. In the East, they claimed to protect themselves against the West, and in the West against the East. Without an enemy, the justification for all of these measures would have disappeared, and the populations would likely not have accepted them. Against many of the innovations and restrictions, the growing interventions of the state, the totalitarian control and surveillance, there would have been resistance. Also, the danger of a nuclear war between the two superpowers, repeatedly raised over the past decades, would then have been a lie the entire time. Both sides used the same psychological warfare against their own people. Both superpowers relied on fear and intimidation as a strategy to control their populations. This went as far as the mass media construction of an overwhelming image of nuclear annihilation, suggesting that the two superpowers, armed to the teeth, would destroy one another in a nuclear war, and that humanity itself would then descend into a devastating nuclear winter. They used this system to control us and our families, keeping everyone under their rule for decades. If the two superpowers were only fighting a fictional battle, there was never any real danger of escalation, and therefore no real danger of a total nuclear annihilation of the world. This supposed threat scenario had, for all those decades, always been nothing but a lie and a deception. It was a stage-managed menace, shown to us again and again, but in truth it had no connection to reality. Conclusion: living in a constructed reality. What does it mean for our understanding of the world if the Cold War was, in fact, a constructed rivalry? If the Cold War was a lie, then this means the following: everything that was built upon it is equally a deception. Our understanding of history, politics, and democracy is therefore not the outcome of natural development, but of carefully planned power structures. For many decades, people were deliberately kept in fear to create a global order that is not founded on freedom, but on control. This means that, even today, we are still living within a system that was built upon that very lie.